And it's so ironic. I was before I got on here, I ended up catching a video, and there was a young man on this video, and this young man was from I just started the TikTok. That's why I turned that off. I mean the YouTube. This young man was from Atlanta area, and evidently he had been on certain dating apps, and he had gotten kind of a perception of dating and meeting people, and that whole process. And he was kind of frustrated with that whole process. And so what he ended up doing was they ended up having a live event where it was like a meet and greet where you could kind of meet people in person. So he went to that event. Thank you, Daphne, for being for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in on the YouTube. He went to that meet and greet. In the process of going there, he found that he was getting a lot of the similar results that he was getting on the dating site. And the results were he was meeting people that, in other words, the people that he liked, they didn't like him. It was kind of this whole cycle of he would like a female or was attracted to one, and she wasn't attracted to him. And basically that was his experience. And it was just the opposite. The women that were attracted to him, he wasn't really attracted to. And so it was this whole gamut. And I'm talking about this is because a lot of the perceptions that we have, and I've said this often, is part of what we're going to continue to get. And yes, we should have certain things as far as safety nets and things in place. But part of that is also with those safety nets, we still have to put ourselves in a place where we're like similar to like he did, where we're going to put ourselves out there a little bit, but kind of be careful. And I'm talking about this because one of the things that came up yesterday, I wanted to revisit that. And the thing that I wanted to revisit was, and is about when you are going through healing, when you are going through a healing process or healing journey. One of the things that I would suggest based upon my experience and based upon a coach that I had is that you want to try to keep yourself in as safe a space as possible. And so what that looks like and what that will look like is, look at yourself when you're going through healing as if you're in ICU. You're in an intensive care unit. And so by being in this intensive care unit, if you go out and you add other people, places and things that you add into your life, if those things aren't enhancing and building up your life, what's going to happen is over a period of time, one of those things, one of the places that you're going, the people that you're meeting, the things that you're doing, one of those things could reactivate the pain that you're still in the process of. Because when you're newly in your painful situation, you're too damaged. And that's the only way I can see it. It's like you're in ICU. You're still in a very, very kind of a touch and go space because, and of course we know that it's not deceasing or you're in a very vulnerable. Yeah, someone said that you're too vulnerable to open up yourself to another person at that point. And I know that it wouldn't be the popular doctrine for a lot of people, but you're in too distressed of a state to accept another person into your life. And sometimes when we accept these other people into our lives, they might not be what we need within that time frame. So then what it might end up doing is perpetuating more of the damage that has already taken place. Because when we've been in something and this is part of why I'm talking about triggers. When we've been in something for an extended period of time, if you've been in a relationship for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30, whatever the time frame is. Many of the people that have come on, whether it was live, whether it was personal coaching or whatever, a lot of the people that reached out to me were people that either they were in a long-term relationship and the person, they passed, or it was the type of thing that there was a serious divorce or some kind of traumatic thing that happened within the relationship. And when these events happen, regardless of what it is, it's still traumatic to that individual. The thing with triggers, and this is a point that I was thinking about also today, is that triggers aren't always necessarily negative. Sometimes the perception could be that it's a trigger. So that means it's negative. That's not necessarily true because there are positive benefits to triggers and there's also negatives. And so what I mean by that, just to give you an example, is that, if you were with that person for an extended period of time, when you first met them, you might have had a certain song that you two would listen to. That song that you two would listen to, why you two were in that state and everything was going well, was a state of, you two were, it was happy and it was joyful and it was so on and so forth. The issue is the longer the relationship that you were in with this person, the more of your subconscious part of your mind, more programs, more experiences, more events, more things that, just things, just everyday things that you did with that person. The intimacy, the surprise parties, all of these different events are programmed in your subconscious part of your mind. And see, this is where the problem comes in, is because that song that was a song that used to had, that was a great song. If there was some form of infidelity or some form of pain or some kind of betrayal or some type of wounding of some sort, then what happens is that thing, that event that was something that was looked at as something that's positive, can all of a sudden flip over into something that is negative. This is part of what I'm trying to share with you. Just because it was something positive, it can turn into something negative. But the point is, when we go through our negative experience, the trigger, the thing with trigger, when you look at the definition, trigger represents that a stimuli or an event that provokes an emotional response. So the thing that I have to look at, as well as you, is that what is my emotional response to this outside event, to this trigger? Of course, the trigger isn't it's not just an outside event. It's also something that's going on within us, because you feel that triggering, that pain, that response. It's not just something that's external from you. It's a part of what you're going to feel in your body, because not only part of the definition is it's a event that provokes an emotional response based on past experiences. But it's not only is it emotional, but it's psychological. It's based upon our thoughts. So it's based upon what you're thinking about that situation and the experience that you felt within your body concerning that particular situation. And so based upon all of these good things that are going on, you're going to have an experience. And so when you meet this new person, based upon the experience that you had with your last person, you might be triggered, because the new person is going to trigger you by not knowing certain things about you that the old person already knew. But because they're a new person and you still haven't completely meshed, they're going to do little simple things unconsciously, but they're going to trigger you. And again, the triggers aren't always negative. The triggers are just bringing an awareness of something that needs to be dealt with, something that there has to be some form of a response in dealing with. Because part of triggers it's a stimuli to provoke and to remember certain events. What was the event that took place that triggered me to look at things the way that I look at them, to feel the way that I feel? One of the biggest parts of triggers is understanding what is the emotional response that I am when I am triggered. When the event comes up, how do I feel about this event? This new person that I just met, how do I feel about this person? Is it a negative? Do I automatically in my mind have negative response or negative thought process concerning them? I asked that question because I saw, not only did I see the young man, I saw a young woman. And her response was, I've dated for a while. I have a couple kids. I'm going to just stay home with my kids and go to bed at 8:30. This was her response. So her response was, her emotional response to dating was, I'm shutting everything down. I'm happier being alone. I don't need to go out anymore. Kind of giving up, kind of, throwing in the towel, so on and so forth. And that's her choice. But my point is, if maybe if she understood that if we don't actually go through a process and learn how we can heal ourselves through this whole process, because it's a process of, first of all, identification, understanding what are the things that trigger us, and then not only what are the things that trigger us, what is the emotion? How do we deal with these things emotionally? Because part of you meeting this person is for learning who they are, and part of learning who they are, how do they respond as far as when conflict? How does this individual respond to conflict? I'm talking just basic conflict. I'm not talking about anything that's extreme. How do they respond to conflict? Some people respond to conflict with physical. They physically put their hands on you, because that's the way that they because they're so angry. That's why people talk about emotional intelligence, because when people sometimes people, the way that they respond is they actually physically grab somebody or touch somebody. You see it online all the time. And the biggest thing that I would tell you, like if you see those videos that pop up with the K's, I call them the K's. The women that they call that name, I don't like to call people names because I think it's childish and foolish. But when they call them the names, and basically all they are is they're people that are in the environments and they're triggered by something that happened. That's all they are. They're triggered, and they feel like they have a right to do certain things and say certain things, and because of that, they act certain ways. because maybe no one can correct them, because a lot of times their husband is standing there saying, yo, babe, please don't do this. Don't do this. The cop is standing there saying, hey, lady, please don't do this. I'm asking you not to do this. But they don't listen, because in their minds, oh, well, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm a princess. I can do this. I can do that, or whatever. And I'm playing around, y'all, but y'all understand what I'm saying. Basically, all that is, you can classify it whatever you want. I want to keep it neutral. It don't matter. I'm not going to give it a name, because I don't want to give it any of my energy, so I'm not going to give it a name. So my point is, all that is someone that does not know how to control their emotions. That's why emotional intelligence, or basic emotional maturity, is important. That's why being raised to know the difference between what is right and wrong, or being able to control your emotions, is important, because that's basic emotional intelligence. Being able to understand that there's going to be different views within people, but that doesn't mean that I have to hate you. That's just part of being the emotional intelligence is, I can still respect you. Okay, so when you look at triggers are stimuli, or an event that provokes an emotional response. So again, what would be your emotional response? How you doing, Bella? What would be your emotional response? Are you the type of that's emotional response? You emotionally respond when a conflict comes, that you shut down? I mean, ask yourself, are you the type that when an emotional response to something happens, and it's important to know. This is why I'm asking these questions, because it's important to know where we are concerning the different responses because this is all this represents, is that I'm triggered. Why am I triggered? What is my emotional response to that trigger? How do I act? In other words, what are the things that make me move, or what are the things that make me feel? Because you're acting based upon what you're feeling inside of you. It's a psychological thing as well as an emotional thing that's going on within you. No one has actually ever done anything to you, or haven't done anything to you within that moment, but something that they said, it triggers something inside of you based upon something that happened in our past. If you're ever in a depressed state, basically that's showing us that we are still living in the place from our past. Just like they say, if you're depressed, that's because you're focusing on the past. People that are anxious, they're focusing on the future. So one of the best things that you can do is look at the things that we can work on as far as like these triggers. Again, there's positive part of the triggers and there's a negative. This is why it's important sometimes to have some time alone. Thank y'all for the comments down in the chat. I'll answer y'all as soon as I get a chance. I gotta stay focused. Give me like 3 more minutes. And I'm gonna turn YouTube off and then we can talk. But the emotional response is going to be based. Sometimes the emotional response could be based upon where you are in life. Maybe you're in a part of your life where you just have a lot of struggles going on. Maybe you're in a part where you're maybe a little discouraged. Maybe you have just different life events that are going on, and you're probably maybe getting a little beat down. Sometimes we can react out. With all of us, we can act out or say something or act in a way that's not appropriate. But I'm talking about overall, if something continually is triggering us or making us act a certain way because of something that was done outside of us, then to me, it's a process of looking at it, examining it, looking at it in more detail. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it there, because I'm going to end this YouTube. I want to end this YouTube around now because I want to keep these videos under 15 minutes. And then what we can do is we can continue this conversation in TikTok. I appreciate every single one of y'all. Those that are in YouTube, I'm going to answer your question. Matter of fact, I'm going to stay on here a few minutes because I'm not too late to today. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not sure. You said never surrender, never give. Thank you. You don't have a name there, so I'm not sure what your name is. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Daphne. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, each and every one of y'all. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna end this YouTube stream. So yeah, if y'all